Greetings, my fellow freedom lovers and sovereign thinkers. This is LL3's News Podcast. My name is Craig, transmitting from the beautiful land of enchantment, which is also known as New Mexico. And today's date is Tuesday, October 11th, 2016. Yep, that's still the typical tangents on Facebook, and it looks like everyone's getting headaches and more on the lamestream media going after one candidate, but the other one is supposed to be credible. It is totally hilarious. That's why I don't know how to manifest to go anything bonkers and have passion and so forth. It is just totally pure entertainment. And just observing my surroundings, whether it's on social media and all that. Like Charlie Brown's teacher. Yeah, a lot of stuff is happening, and I see great positive feedback as well. So beautiful day out. Took a nice little chilled out in the front, blue skies, which is nice. And of course, hopefully everyone out in Florida is doing well. Bishop with Matthew, even the Haitian brothers and sisters out there too. In Haiti, there's like a lot of suffering. They said 1,000 people died, which is a real shame, of course. Yemen, and I can go on, but I'm ranting, digressing. So, all right, you know what? What the heck? Let's just get this thing going here. And I just checked this out today. Went through social media, Facebook, and all that. Yeah, I like to see what I'm going to pick on or pick with. This one here is from guns.com. This one's entitled Group Pushes for Assault Weapons Ban in Florida. Well, they're at California. Come on. And this reads here, a small gun control organization using the Pulse nightclub mass killing as a call to action is making a long shot attempt at bringing a ban on some semi-automatic weapons and their magazines to Florida, terming themselves to the Florida Coalition to Prevent Gun Violence. They emerged from the state's League of Women Voters Gun Safety Committee. The pros and cons of that particular organization, right? They also stated legislative goals bring universal background checks and statewide ban on all semi-automatic weapons and large capacity feeding devices to Florida. Yes, it will make us feel safe. Even when foreign invaders may come in or corrupt governments, they're gonna use those kinds of weapons, and they want us to use water pistols, right? Please. We're horrified by the type of weapon what was used at Pulse, says Patricia Brigham, head of the group, in an interview with public radio. Oh, they sound like that. It's like, yeah, okay. Well, we have to do it this way. Well, how do you really feel? They sound like totally monotone and makes people zombified. In the past, Brigham has been all over the state pushing expanded background checks, campaigning against open carry and campus carry, and even visiting firearms dealers in the Sunshine State to make sure that the business have signage that is required by law. I need a hero. I need a hero just like Underdog. Come on. Let's reply the nanny herself. That means those gun dealers can't even wipe their own behinds. They're the criminals. Her group likely has a smattering of support among Democrats in Tallahassee, a few lawmakers in recent months pushing for a special session to take up gun control legislation, which Republican leaders have shown little inclination to entertain. Some Florida congressional delegations to Washington includes U.S. Representatives Ted Deutsch. Remember, he supported the Patriot Act too. Crony Brown and Alan Grayson. Good grief, it's like Huey, yippee yapping yahooey on this particular matter. All Democrats have open calls since the Orlando attack to restart the expired 1994 federal assault weapon ban and restrict magazines capable of holding more than 10 cartridges. Currently, 8 Florida Democrats are co-sponsoring a new ban in the House, though it will not likely to come up for a vote. Further, a recent University South Florida Nielsen survey found that 49% of the respondents view the ban on the sale of semi-automatic weapons to be a move in the right direction. Who are these people? They have Palmolive hands, for goodness sakes? Come on. Brigham groups, however, will have the very steep uphill struggle in a state that has pioneered gun rights legislation through stand your ground and liberal concealed carry laws. Florida enjoys more concealed carry permit holders than any other state, and a long history of Republican heavy state legislatures speeding pro gun bills to the governor. The state's powerful gun rights champion, Marion Hammer, executive of the United Sportsmen of Florida and a former National Rifle Association president, told Guns.com the newfound drive to bring a California solution to the state is deflection from the real issues at hand, planning a political podium in the aftermath of a tragedy that has taken innocent lives will never solve the problem of gun violence by terrorists or people with mental illness. Yet that they see that Yet that seems to be the trademark of gun control proponents who hijack the mission of their organizations in exchange for exposure, Hammer said in a email Tuesday. Gun control is not the solution. It's political eyewash and a diversion to keep from dealing with the real problem, said Hammer. And I have to agree with her on that. Sometimes some of these firearm rights legislation is a little bit out of hand because we have natural born rights. But, however, some of these folks have to understand, and they haven't learned. See, this particular organization didn't learn dilly squat. If you went to my last episode, my past episode on Orlando Massacres, I gave you all the rundown. And I'm going to put that link on there too. And even Pink Pistols says no, they're against tougher gun laws. They said it's the person, not the weapon, not the firearm. So I have to add that to my footnotes. And what's interesting too, they forget about the shooter Omar Mateen, and the what happened was G4S, okay, G4S, the private security company. They were they got slapped over $150,000 fine on a security firm that employed Orlando Post shooter Omar Mateen. And I remember this in September. And I'll read this to you. It's from Tempe Times, and it says it's by Anthony Cromer. It goes, when Orlando nightclub shooter Omar Mateen applied for a security job in 2007, he had to undergo a psychiatric evaluation. The company that hired him, G4S, told the state that a doctor gave Mateen a clean bill of mental health. But after the June killings opened Mateen's life to nationwide scrutiny, the doctor name on a formal state document said she never met Mateen. She has sold her practice and was living in Colorado when he applied for a job. G4S acknowledged that a different doctor did the examination and called it a clerical error. So technically it was rubber stamped. But the state's records released Friday show that the same error happened hundreds of times. G4S listed Dr. Carol Nodelman as a psychiatrist of record on at least 1,500 applications after she left the state, leading to an investigation and a large fine by the Florida Department of Agriculture. State officials filed paperwork seeking $150 in fines from G4S, saying the company essentially rubber-stamped the mental evaluations of people seeking to become armed guards. A spokeswoman for the Department of Agriculture said that the agency believes the guards received mental health screenings, but G4S listed the incorrect psychiatrist. The practice continued for almost a decade, according to the state. A G4S spokeswoman said the company cooperated fully with the state's investigation and took steps to make sure that the error would not be repeated. Nodelman's attorney, G. Taylor Wilson, said she would not answer questions and that his law firm was continuing its own investigation. Nodelman did characteristic certifications for the security company, but sold her practice to Dr. Joan Balling Seminaro at headquarters for a psychological evaluation in January 2006. Mateen wasn't given an evaluation until September 2007, so it was almost a year and 9 months. Balling Seminaro, did not return a phone call Friday night before he killed 49 people at Pulse nightclub on June 12th. Mateen was a G4S security guard for about 9 years. Licensing records show that he was a proficient shooter who scored with a 98th percentile with the same caliber weapon, a 9mm semi-automatic pistol. Used in the Orlando slayings, Mateen also used a semi-automatic rifle inside a nightclub. He worked at the St. Lucie County Courthouse and later at the Guard Gate at the PGA Village neighborhood in western Port St. Lucie. A colleague, Daniel Gilroy, told the Tampa Bay Times that Mateen brought a prayer mat to work but had a vulgar mouth and was deeply resentful of minorities and women. Hmm. Could we say um, unholy? He was quick to anger, Gilroy said, and used slurs to describe gay people, blacks, Jews, and women. He never used other words to describe them, Gilroy said. Oh, he hated women. He thought they were objects. He thought they shouldn't be allowed to drive. He thought he should not. He should have his. He thought he should have his pick. State slaps $150,000 on security firm that employed Orlando Post shooter Omar Mateen, and it was on reported September 9th, 2016. So so that's very interesting here because even on my other episodes besides the Orlando shooting, I was always said it was a New World Order agenda. And of course, the facility itself, the state legislation talks about, has a law that you're not allowed to have a firearm in a facility that dispenses alcoholic beverages. So technically, right there, the state deprives the property rights of those entities. So that was you could say technically a firearm free zone, even though there's a claim, quote unquote, oh, but they had a armed guard in front of the door. So what? And of course, I was listening to this at that time about the whole scenario with like Omar Mateen made his life with Allah and made his pledge allegiance to ISIS. Like, come on, it's like so obvious. There's even videos, like some discrepancies. Okay, that was like technically rehearsed. You know, so CNN reports. You see people. Came as one so-called one wounded guy. He wasn't even bleeding to death. Then they like in the court you see him dropping off, and the club's like right there. Come on, folks. And of course, like I said, even my other episodes, I did like 3 episodes. One I want to put the Orlando shooting, but the other episodes after that, I did address about G4S, which they have a contract with the Department of Homeland Security. It's all in there, so you can check those archives. But I will add this to my footnotes on the on that shooting, and on the Orlando shooting massacre, and you could just take it from there. But one thing, see, with this organization, okay, that want to ban the assault weapons, the so-called Florida Coalition to Prevent Gun Violence. All right, they got to learn one thing. We have Article 1, Section 2, our basic rights, which are natural born rights, are inalienable, and of course the right to bear arms. All right, but I still contradict that other statement, except that the matter of bearing arms may be regulated by law. I disagree with that. It should just get scrapped. As far as I'm concerned, it should just get that first statement in there and just get rid of that other comma and cross that out, including B and subsection B and C. To me, it is irrelevant. And of course, you can't ban because you have to have due process of law. You can't seize them. And here's one thing. Here's one thing these folks got to understand. On Article 1, Section 10, prohibited laws. No bill of attainder, ex post facto law, or law impairing the obligation of contract shall not be passed. So what they're doing is they're trying to author a de facto referendum. So right there, scrap up, shred, and go. All right, and even with the whole background check, so forth, you're saying that these guys are a bunch of morons. We have no merit. As far as I'm concerned, to those buffoons, get the hell out of Florida. Take your police state attributes somewhere else because it's contaminating space. If you don't like it, stick it. I would love to meet these people, man. I would have a field day, and I get them with kindness because here's one thing for sure. to the women out there in Florida. They are learning to shoot, they carry, and a lot of them are real attractive. Don't mess with them. You get a lot more you can chew on, include those bimbos from the so-called Brady Bunch. The Brady Bunch. Yeah, Florida Coalition to Prevent Gun Violence. Come on. You're nothing. There's a ladies out there, they will shoot back. So beware of that. And even since that shooting, okay, even more people in the LGBT community has been practicing, carrying, and learning. And in addition, 100% Pink Pistols, they said their membership went up 100%. Okay, so even the ones who are armed, they're armed and gay, lesbians don't matter. They're packing because they value their lives too. And you know what? You don't have to agree with their sexual practices, but they had the right to preserve, value their lives like everybody else. End of story. All right. Next one here. I just got this from Activist Post. And it's by Matt Agorist. It actually came from Free Thought Project. It says here, pastor facing $100 fine. $100 a day fine for helping homeless women and children on his own church's property. And it says here, proving once again that the state has no interest in helping people. The state of Delaware is attacking a pastor who dare attempt to help the homeless. Pastor Aaron Appling of Victory Church West in Dover is being threatened with a $100 fine by county officials. I think there's two counties. Actually, wow, they got county in Delaware. I remember it to be no county. I think it's like two counties now, if I'm correct. Officials for allowing a 21-year-old homeless woman to live in an RV in the back of the church property. Oh my goodness, run to the hills. Because Appling didn't go through the right channels of extortion and get his own property approved by the government to do with it what he wishes, officials are promising to extort him. Yeah, counties and cities love doing that because they believe they're above everybody. It's okay to fertilize their county halls and city halls, right? See how they like it. According to NBC Philadelphia, Kent County officials sent Appling a letter stating his church isn't zoned to let homeless people stay on the property. The letter warns that if the church doesn't act quickly, they could be fined $100 a day. To be clear, a fine is backed by the threat of violence from the state for non-payment. If Appling continues to be a good Samaritan by providing a woman with shelter and refuses to pay $100 per day fine, he will receive a visit from armed agents of the state demanding payment. Woo! How manly! If Appling refuses to pay the extortion fees to these armed agents, they will attempt to kidnap and cage him. If Appling resists his kidnappers, he will have violence enacted against him and he could be legally killed. Alex Sims, a 21-year-old homeless mom who is battling lupus. Ooh, man, my mother had that. It's not a real good illness, okay? It's like arthritis almost. And so 21 has lupus, has nowhere to go, and the state is attempting to take the only thing she has positive in her life right now, Pastor Appling's kindness. We want to stand up for her, Appling said, because there is nobody else to stand up for her. Because the state needs to have a piece of red tape and related fee declaring the church property a campground. Sims could soon find herself back on the street. Again, to be clear, by rezoning Appling's own property as a campground, nothing actually changes. It is simply by means by which the state can collect money from its citizens. Yeah, hey, extortion, right? According to NBC Philadelphia, while county officials said the church can apply for rezoning to make the land a campground, Appling said it would be too expensive. He's hoping the church and the county can reach a compromise before fines begin. Helping a homeless mother is not only a crime the church has been accused of either. Last month, Abilene announced a plan to build multiple tiny homes on its property to provide shelter for those in need. And again, their good deed was quickly swatted down by the bureaucratic hand of government. The good news is the church is showing no signs of backing down. Instead of paying the fees, they are seeking to change the law entirely to put an end to such a tyrannical practice. We wish them luck in their endeavors. We have to choose at some point in time as believers who we're going to stand for and help, Appling said. We're not against them. We're just choosing we need to help this person more than we need to be pleasing you. Yeah, I have to say I gotta address this for a fact. There's a video on there, video news report on this as well. And there's people, neighbors complaining. You always got these nannies, okay? Well, hey, how come you got to get the police? Oh my goodness! Instead of talking to this man directly, it happens all the time. They rather have authorities to do it for them because they can't even clean their own butts, or their testicles are in their mouth. And I say it symbolically, or their tampons. That's for the women too. And one thing I'm looking at, I was like, I was trying to examine the Delaware Constitution, and it's interesting. There's no really actual property rights on here, or like natural born rights. However, the preamble to the Delaware Constitution states, "Through divine goodness, all men have by nature the rights of worshiping and serving their Creator according to the dictates of their conscience, of enjoying and defending life and liberty, of acquiring, protecting reputation, and property." Hopefully the Kent County is hearing this, and in general of obtaining objects suitable for their condition, without injury by one to another, as as these rights are essential to their welfare, for due exercise thereof, the power is inherited in them, and therefore all just authority is the institution of political society is derived from the people and established with their consent to advance their happiness, and they may, for this end, as circumstances required, from time to time, alter their constitution of government. Okay? That is prima facie just cause and what Priest Appling is doing. And you can let me go to Article 9. Try to get that. Come on. Yeah, it's a little bit slow. And it's Article 9, Section 4, if I'm correct. Yep. And it says here, under rights, privileges, immunities, and estates, the rights, privileges, immunities, and estates of religious societies and corporate bodies, except as herein otherwise provided, shall remain as if the Constitution of the state has not been altered. So, rights, privileges, immunities, and estate. End of story. I'll have to go a little further. And hopefully, those chumps from the Kent County, Delaware government and their delegates, I like to say that, governmental delegates, can read and comprehend. She's not out there taking a dump in the middle in the fields or anything like that. Real quiet, respectful. I think the folks should just talk to these people instead of complaining. Bunch of insecure cowards, man. I see this all the time. Even in Fort Lauderdale, just giving you an example. Well, I just call them instead. Well, could they assume that someone's going to, instead of talking, they're going to go in there and just, oh, that person may be a psychopath. We'll get the police to handle our calls. Instead of taking care of yourselves, they're the same people that call the cops to get their cat out of a tree. And they're capable of going up there themselves. Come on, give me a break. This is totally acidine. You know what? No victim, no crime. And make sure support if you're up there in the area, support this man, okay? All right. All right, next one here came from Activist Post. Again, actually, is it Activist Post? Yeah, if I'm correct. Yeah, Free Thought. Yeah, Free Thought Project too. So they have was a lot more consolidating. They're sharing information, which is all good. I enjoy, I enjoy going to their sites because you got multiple sources. It says here in leak speeches, Clinton promises bankers to stand against marijuana legalization in all senses of the word. Goldman Sachs, UBS, Morgan Stanley, and Deutsche Bank. Yeah, Deutsche Bank's in trouble. What happened? Everyone knew about Hillary and they'll take their money somewhere else. All right. It says here, this is by Justin Garner. WikiLeaks has arguably have been the most important thing that has happened to elections, if not the veneer of democracy in quite a long time. We've been able to see the true side of politics and bureaucrats like never before. In Hillary Clinton, we we see a figure beholden to Wall Street, working diligently to advance the influence of financial corporations over government policy and taxpayer money. Her megadonor list is a who's who of megabanks that also happen to benefit from the TARP government bailout. In their money, in return for their money, Clinton gives speeches to Wall Street giants behind closed doors between 2013 and 2015. She told Goldman Sachs she was far removed from ordinary people. There's links here. You can see it for yourselves, my friends, all right? And that you need both public and a private position. Clinton has facilitated terribly on the issue of the Trans-Pacific Partnership, TPP, which is a gift to her donors, but very unpopular to Americans who see it for the fleecing it is. She was for TPP before she was against it. A familiar deceptive flip flopper way. All right, as Bernie Sanders pointed out during the primary, where he was efficiently neutralized by the establishment, the only thing we know about Clinton is that she will be on the side of Wall Street. If Clinton supporters believe she will do anything about government's war on cannabis, they should think again. Good people at marijuana.com have been studying the leaked emails, and during one of the Wall Street speeches, Clinton expressed a clear opposition to cannabis legalization. During an on-stage Q&A question with Xerox chairman and CEO in March 2014, Clinton used Wall Street terminology to express her opposition to ending cannabis prohibition in all senses of word. Ultra Burns. Long means thumbs up, short means thumbs down, or long means I support, short means I don't. I'm going to start with, I'm going to give you 10 long shorts. Secretary Clinton, even if you could make money on a short, you can't answer short. And this is what Burns says. You can answer short, but you got to be careful about letting anybody else know that. They will bet against you. So legalization of pot, short in all senses of the word. An exchange with Burns is part of an 80-page document containing 80 emails from John Podesta, her campaign manager. Campaign staffers have been working diligently to try and scrub embarrassing parts of the speeches, and this is one of them, as Tom Angel points out. That the campaign flagged the candidates' opposition to legalization as a potential problem demonstrates a growing understanding by political operatives that marijuana law reform is now a mainstream issue, one which is supported by a majority of Americans and supermajority of Democratic primary voters. As with so many other issues, it's hard to tell from Clinton's public statements exactly where she stands, unlike Sanders, who openly supports legalization and even introduced a bill to end federal prohibition, which I give him a thumbs up on. Since that exchange with Burns in 2014, Clinton has acknowledged the medical value of cannabis and indicated she would let states do their own thing, and even said cannabis should be rescheduled under the Controlled Substances Act. Feds know best, right? However, she adopts a cover your ass approach by saying, I don't think we've done enough research yet. Yeah, she's been too many popping pills and going to Twilight Zone, go figure. And I want to wait and see what happens if the states with recreational legalization. This is not this is not in line with the truth becoming exponentially obvious that denying medical cannabis to suffering patients is a criminal act, and prohibiting a plant that people have used for thousands of years is oppression. Clinton has no problem to make it clear to a Wall Street corporation that she is against legalization. But why? Perhaps because the pharmaceutical industry is a major part of Wall Street and they are desperately fighting ballot initiatives to legalize cannabis in several states as it represents a direct threat to their profits. Exactly. So, another reason why you should not support that Jezebelian scum queen of the New World Order, Hillary Rodham Clinton. That's right. CNN's not going to tell you this crap, and MSNBC, because they all have a fetish of going after Trump this, Trump that. But you know what? You're talking to a man that's critical of him as well. All right? Those asswipes want to praise her like she's the greatest thing since sliced bread. She supports victimless crime laws. So you know what? Give her the big middle finger right to her face and go, you don't need a teleprompter to figure that one out. Like I said in the past, she's an anti-freedom stooge. And if you don't like it, too bad, because I can speak my mind. So no victim, no crime. And all those folks out there, like I said, go in your state and local areas, support repeal victimless crime laws, and you can't do it from legislatively, jury nullification. You got more power than the judge and the prosecutor combined. Plain and simple. All right. Okay, next one here came from WallStreetOnParade.com, and what's his name? Doug Owens from BlacklistedNews.com. Good site. Check it out. And we're pen pals, so and follow each other, and it's real good stuff. This one here goes. Email shows Citigroup had a major role in shaping and staffing Obama's first term. It's by Pat Martins and Russ Martins. As it reads here, the presidential election 2008 was held on November 4th, with Barack Obama winning a promise of delivery of hope. I call it hype. Hype and change, right? Hype. I call it hype and stagnate to a nation in the midst of the worst financial crisis since the Great Depression. At that time, Citigroup was a financial basket case. It had already received $25 billion from the government's bailout program known as the Troubled Asset Relief Program, or TARP, in October. It was secretly receiving hundreds of billions of dollars more each month in below market rates, revolving loans from the Federal Reserve, information which the Fed refuses to make public despite multiple Freedom of Information Act requests from the media, and Citigroup was just 19 days from more hemorrhaging, requiring an additional government infusion of $20 billion as an asset guarantees more than $300 billion. Citigroup's stock was at $13.99, a decline of 63% in just 12 months, and it was on the way to eventually trade as a penny stock at 99 cents. Citigroup has been seriously charged by its regulators for abusing its customers and targeting the poor and financially uneducated. But key executives at the bank have played major roles in raising funds for Barack Obama campaign, so it was richly rewarded for that, according to emails released by WikiLeaks yesterday, which came from a hack of an email account of John Podesta, a co-chair of the Obama's 2008 transition team. We learned that despite the obvious fact that Citigroup was both corrupt and derelict in handling its own financial affairs, Barack Obama gave executives of that bank an outsized role in shaping and staffing in his first term. You see, it's all like holding hands, Oh yeah, I'm so corrupt. You have to understand, because my folks are fools. I love to thrive on shams. There you go. I'm gonna keep on going here. In an email dated Saturday, October 8th, 2008, Michael Foreman used his official Citigroup address of foreman@citi.com, sent the following email to Obama advisors. Review teams. Attached is the latest version of the agency review teams. It is a closely held document, so please treat it with the same sensitivity as ours. If you could all if you all could take a quick look at the list for the agencies in your area, that would be helpful. I think the hope is that there are no guarantees. Some of the people on these lists make their right way into agencies ultimately. Our role, therefore, is to check whether there is much overlap between the names here and the names we're seeing generating for a sub-cabinet position in each agency. There doesn't need to be total overlap, but there is a total disconnect. It would probably be better to rectify that now versus later. I hate to ask since I just sent you another long spreadsheet to check, but if you could do this tomorrow and get back to Lisa, copied here, and myself, that would be great. Thanks. Foreman has served in the Clinton administration and moved to Citigroup along with Clinton's Treasury Secretary Robert Rubin. Rubin would collect compensation of $126 million during his decade at the bank and after helping to deliver the repeal of Glass-Steagall Act, legislation that had previously prevented Citigroup from owning an insured bank along with the high-risk brokerage and investment bank. According to the Center for Responsive Politics, Foreman was managing director of Citigroup Management Corp from 1999 to 2009. Obama appointed Foreman to the position of U.S. Trade Representative in 2013. I'm sorry. This is hilarious, okay? It's insulting, but it's hilarious. This is how Political sums up how trade deals are being deliberated under his command. If you want to hear the details of the Trans Pacific Partnership trade deal the Obama administration is hoping to pass, you've got to be a member of Congress, you've got to go to classified briefings, and leave your staff and cell phone at the door. What a concept! If you're a member who wants to read the text, you gotta go to a room in the basement of the Capitol Visitor Center and be handed it one section at a time. Watch over as you read and forced to hand over any notes you make before leaving. How sweet it is. According to the WikiLeaks emails released yesterday, Foreman began plotting who would serve in the Obama administration long before the election's results came in. In an email to John Podesta dated September 18, 2008, Foreman wrote, Mark Gittenstein called to say he was in the process of inserting people into all the work streams and indicated that Ron Klain would be the representative of the personnel working group. I know and like Ron and I'm happy to work with him. Do not let me know how would you like to handle information flow, role in decision making, etc. Thanks. In another email dated October 15, 2008, Foreman further shows he's playing a pivotal role in personal issues. He writes to Podesta and Obama's advisors Pete Rose, not the baseball player, okay? Please see attached. Pete need to chat with you today about a time-sensitive Treasury issue. Please call at your convenience. 917-499-3433. I think that's in New York, if I'm correct. Just got some feedback that Blair could well be interested in DNI. Also spent more time with Ozog last night, and he could be enticed to the NEC. Also spent 2 hours with Gene yesterday. Another email suggests that Podesta allow Foreman to screen potential new hires. Podesta wrote to Foreman on October 13, 2008 to inquire. Subject, Gerald Corrigan. Rom, raised as possible Treasury deputy. Said he didn't know him, but his name has been raised by others. You probably do. Worth considering. Foreman responded, yes, though quite a bit out of date. A bit out of date. Foreman was not only Citigroup executive to be tapped to shape Obama's first term in an email dated just 5 days after Obama won the 2008 election. Daniel Tarullo, an Obama advisor who now sits as a member of the Federal Reserve Board of Governors and functions of the quasi role as supervisor of the too big to fail bank holding companies like Citigroup, emailed Jack Lew at Citigroup. Lew was chief operating officer of the very division that toppled the bank. Tarlew tells the Lew the following: Jack, here's what I wanted to speak with you about. One, possibly a meeting in Chicago to brief Bo Jurb with a BO slash GJRB on budget stimulus. People have been talking about Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday, but nothing yet firmly sets to my knowledge. Assuming if it goes forward, how should we present in 90 minutes for both? Key issues. 2. Your willingness to do some oversight on what Jason is doing on a budget preparation, at least such time as we have an OMB director designated Dan. Robert Rubin was also contacted on November 1st, 2008 at his official Citigroup email addressed by Tarullo. Hopefully I've got his name correct. The email was copied to another Clinton Treasury Secretary, Larry Summers. Remember him? Who was then at a hedge fund, D.E. Shaw. The email includes that Tarullo was speaking the opinion of Rubin, Summers, and others in Obama's closely knit circle as to whether Obama should attend a G20 summit as president-elect. Click on the tab attachments to read the full memo, but I'm going to bypass that. Let it sink in for a moment. The Obama team was asking Robert Rubin, who had played a major role in pushing for the repeal of the Glass-Steagall Act, which in turn allowed Citigroup to become an unraveling bank behemoth that was at the very moment playing an outsized role in catering the U.S. financial system, to give it advice on how Obama should conduct himself on financial and economic matters. In her book, Bull by the Horns, Sheila Bair, head of the Federal Deposit Insurance Company, or FDIC, during the financial crisis, wrote the following. By November 2008, the supposedly solvent city was back on the ropes in need of another government handout. The market didn't buy the OCC's and New York Fed strategy of making it look as though Citi was a healthy and as all other commercial banks. Citi had not had a profitable quarter since the second quarter of 2007. Its losses were not attributed to uncontrollable market conditions. They were attributed to weak management, high levels of leverage, and excessive risk-taking. It had major losses driven by their exposures to a virtual hit list of high-risk lending, subprime mortgages, Alt-A mortgages, designer credit cards, leveraged loans, and poorly underwritten commercial real estate. It had loaded up in exotic CDOs and auction rate securities. It was taking losses on credit default swaps entered into the weak counterparties. And it will rely on unstable, volatile funding, a lot of short-term loans and foreign deposits. If you wanted to make a definitive list on all bad practices that had led to crisis, all you had to do was look at Citi's financial strategies. What's more, virtually no meaningful supervisory measures have been taken against the bank by the OCC or the New York Fed. Instead, the OCC and the New York Fed stood up as that sick bank continued to pay major dividends and pretended that it was healthy. But at this Frankenbank tank, the top advisors to the presidential candidate Barack Obama were asking 3 of his executives for advice on personnel and strategy. Foreman is now crafting his secret trade deal for Obama. Jack Lew, after accepting a $940,000 bonus from insolvent Citigroup, was nominated to Obama to become U.S. Treasury Secretary and head of the Financial Stability Oversight Council, or F-SOC, the entity created under the Dodd-Frank financial reform legislation to monitor the financial stability of the United States under Lew's oversight. Citigroup has now more derivatives than 4,701 other U.S. banks combined. Hillary Clinton has promised a third Obama term. What she failed to mention was that Obama actually delivered the third and fourth terms of the Clinton administration. Given this reality, it is easy to understand why the Clinton team is so anxious to assign nefarious motives to Russia for the WikiLeaks revelations. From our viewpoint, the hacked emails must be viewed as a critical window of light into how American democracy has been hopelessly corrupted under corporate campaign financing. Yep, and yep. The banksters' butt lugs, like I call them. They trying to do it for their oligarchs. And Citigroup is just another example. That's why I don't support these damn mega banks. They're filthy pieces of garbage. And my friends, this is why I always don't follow a lot of hype or hoopla, who's going to win, because this is downright lunacy. These rhetoric and attractions and so forth don't mean nothing. It means nothing. And I do digress. It's just one of those things that just really blows my mind. So I'm just going to chill a little bit and I'll return. Okay, I'm just back here, and we're going to go with go by Intercept.com. This was entitled, "In the Democratic Echo Chamber, Inconvenient Truths Are Recast as Putin Plots." Donald Trump, for reasons I've repeatedly pointed out, is an extremist, despicable, and dangerous candidate, and his almost certain humiliating defeat is less than a month away. So I realize there is a little appetite for certain circles for critiques of any of the tawdry and sometimes fraudulent journalistic claims and tactics being deployed to further that goal. In the face of an abusive, misogynistic, bigoted, scary, lawless authoritarian, was a little journalistic fraud for instant fear-mongering about subversive Kremlin agents between friends, if it helps to stop him. But come to January, Democrats will continue to be a dominant politician faction in the U.S. more so than ever, and the tactics they are now embracing will endure the past election, making them worthy of scrutiny. Those tactics now mostly prominently include dismissing any facts or documents that reflect negatively on their leader as fakes, and strongly insinuating that anyone who questions or opposes those leaders is a stooge agent of the Kremlin. It sounds like, conspiracy theorists tasked with a subversive and dangerously un-American mission on the behalf of the hostile acts in Moscow. Those bad Russians, right? To see how extreme and damaging this behavior has become, let's just quickly examine two utterly false claims that Democrats over the past 4 days, led by party-loyal journalists, have decimated and induced thousands of people, if not more, to believe. On Friday, WikiLeaks published its first installment emails obtained from the account of Clinton campaign chair John Podesta. Despite WikiLeaks' perfect long-standing record of only publishing authentic documents, MSNBC's favorite ex-intelligence official, Malcolm Nance, within hours of the archived release, posted a tweet claiming zero evidence without citation to a single document in WikiLeaks archives. It was compromised with fakes. As you can see, more than 4,000 people have retweeted this official warning. That includes not only random Clinton fans, but also high-profile Clinton-supporting journalists who is spreading it around gave this claim their stamp of approval, intentionally leading huge numbers of people to assume the WikiLeaks archive must be full of fakes and its contents should therefore simply be ignored. Clinton campaign's officials spent the day fueling these insinuations, strongly implying that documents were unreliable and should thus be ignored. Poof! Just like that, the unpleasant facts about Hillary Clinton disappeared like a fairy protecting frightened children by waving her magic and wand and springing her dust over a demon, causing it to scatter away. Except the only frauds here was Nance's claim, not any of the documents published by WikiLeaks. Those were all real indeed. At Sunday's night's debate, and asked directly about the excerpts of her Wall Street speeches found in the release, Clinton herself confirmed their authenticity, and news outlets such as New York Times and AP reported and continue to report on their contents without a caveat that may be frauds. No real print journalists or actual newsrooms, as opposed to campaign operatives masquerading as journalists, fell for this scam. So this tactic did not prevent reporting from being done, but it did signal to Clinton's most devoted followers to simply ignore the contents of the release. Anyone writing articles about what these documents revealed was instantly barraged with claims from documents that they were fakes by people often pointing to articles like this one. And you can see right here, it says the article says here, MSNBC intelligence experts WikiLeaks is releasing falsified emails not really from Hillary Clinton. So you got in the arrow, you got 21,918 shares. We got to protect our queen. Yay! So you can see that for yourselves. And it says here this article was shared almost 22,000 times on Facebook alone in Nance's defense. If it's true that some unknown random person posted a doctored email on the internet and claimed it was real, but that did not come from WikiLeaks archive and has nothing to do with assessing the reliability of the archive any more than fake NYT stories on the internet impugn the reliability of articles in that paper. Not one person has identified a single email or document released by WikiLeaks of questionable authenticity that includes all of the Clinton officials whose names are listed as their authors and recipients. Yet these journalists and experts deliberately convince who know how many people to believe a fairy tale that WikiLeaks archive is pervaded with forgeries. Most insidious and subtle, but even worse, what was Newsweek. They're still around? Wow. And this Clinton adoring writer, Kurt Eichenwald, did last night what happened in reality, and the word of facts was extremely trivial. One of the emails, the second installment of the WikiLeaks Podesta archive, posted yesterday, was from Sidney Blumenthal to Podesta. The purpose of Blumenthal's email was to show Podesta one of Eichenwald's endless series of Clinton exonerating articles, this one about Benghazi. So in the body of the email to Podesta, Blumenthal simply pasted the link and the full contents of this article, although the purpose of Eichenwald's article, like everything he says and does, was to defend Clinton. One paragraph in the middle acknowledged that one minor criticism of Clinton on Benghazi was possibly rational. Once WikiLeaks announced that this second email batch was online, many news organizations, including The Intercept, along with the New York Times and AP, began combining through them to find relevant information and then publish articles about them. One such story was published by Sputnik, the Russian government's international outlet, similar to RT, which highlighted that Blumenthal email, but the Sputnik story inaccurately attributed the text of the Newsweek article to Blumenthal, thus suggesting that one of Clinton's closet advisors had expressed criticism of her on Benghazi. Sputnik quickly removed the article once Eichenwald Eichenwald pointed out the words were this, not Blumenthal's. Then, in his campaign speech last night, Trump made reference to the Sputnik article hours after it was published and spread on social media, claiming obviously accurate that even Blumenthal had criticized Clinton on Benghazi. That's all that happened. The zero suggests in the article, let alone evidence that any WikiLeaks email was doctored. It wasn't. It was just Sputnik misreporting the email. When Sputnik realized its articles misattributed to the text to Blumenthal, it took it down. It is not hard to imagine how a rushed, careless Sputnik staffer could glance at the email and fail to realize that Blumenthal was forwarding Eichenwald's article rather than writing it himself. And while nobody knows how erroneous Sputnik's story made its way for Trump for him to reference his speech, it is very easy to imagine how Trump staffers on a shoddy, inept campaign, which has previously cited InfoWars and white supremacist sites, among others, who have stumbled into a widely shared Sputnik story and has been published hours earlier on the internet and then passed along to Trump for him to highlight without realizing reasons to be skeptical. In, in any event, based on the available evidence, that is a small embarrassment for Trump. He cited an internal story from a non-credible Russian outlet, so it was worth nothing. But that's not what happened. Eichenwald, with increasing levels of hysteria, manically posted no fewer than 3 dozen tweets last night about his story, each time escalating his claims of what it proved. By the time he was done, he had misled large numbers of people into believing that he found proof that 1. The documents in the WikiLeaks archive were altered. 2. The Russian forgeries into WikiLeaks archive. 3. Sputnik knew about the WikiLeaks archive ahead of time before it was posted online. 4. WikiLeaks coordinated the release of the documents with the Russian government. 5. The Russian government and the Trump campaign coordinated to falsely attribute Eichenwald's words to Blumenthal. In fact, Eichenwald literally has zero evidence for any of that. The point is not that his evidence for these propositions is inclusive or unpersuasive. The point is that there is zero evidence for any of it. It is all just conspiracy theorizing and speculation that he invented. Worse, the article, while hinting at these claims and encouraging readers to believe them, he does not even expressly claim any of those things. Instead, Eichenwald's increasingly unhinged tweets repeatedly inflated his significant story from what it was, a mass attribution of an email by Sputnik that Trump repeated, into 5-alarm warning that's an insidious Russian plot to subvert U.S. elections had been proven, with Trump and fake WikiLeaks documents at the center. By itself, it is not so notable. All journalists are tempted to hype their stories, but Eichenwald went way, way, way beyond that, including, as demonstrated below, demonstrated lies. But what it takes so significant is how many reasoned, perfectly smart journalists, just as they did with Nancy's official warning, started falling prey to the dual hysteria of the Twitter group dynamics and election blinders, to the point where CNN featured Eichenwald this morning to highlight his major scoop, like Putin, Trump, and WikiLeaks in the plot to feed Americans heaps of Russian disinformation. Just watch how this rap narrative played out in a very short period of time, with nobody waiting to get in the way of the speeding train for fear of being castigated as Trump supporters or Putin stooge, accusations that are yet again inevitably on their way as a result of this article. To call this an oversight deceit to understate the case, in particular the repeated claim that his story has anything to do with, let alone demonstrate that WikiLeaks is working with Putin or WikiLeaks is compromised, is an outright fraud. The assertion of the second tweet that only those two, Trump and Russia, knew about the article is an outright lie, since the time Trump cited it but it has been published hours early on the internet and shared widely on social media. Moreover, none of the documents released by WikiLeaks have yet to be identified as anything but completely authentic. But look at this at his tweets. Each has been retweeted by close to 1,000 people in the case of the most sensationalistic ones, many more, and they were quickly hyped by people who know better because anyone supporting Clinton wants to believe that is true. As Kirk and Walls point out, at least one of the hacked emails have been doctored to make Hillary look worse. Matt O'Brien is from Crooks and Liars. Exactly. Trump and Putin so close. The Kremlin is writing Trump's talking points. So there's a lot of accusations on that. Brian Fallon goes, if you're going to write about material issues by WikiLeaks, you should at least state that they are product of illegal hacking by a foreign government. Of course, you got Chris Sacco says, I appreciate your balance. However, your argument was stronger before this happened. So it's a lot of big claims. Of course, Kirk Eichenwald said here, how did Trump come from reciting to the false that only appeared with Russian government news agencies? It's from Newsweek. Yeah, like Newsweek's such a great magazine. Shoot. I'm surprised it still exists. Literally none of that happened, or at least there is zero evidence that it did. These smart, rational people falling for a scam. Why? In its part because Twitter fosters this group and think a lack of critical thought. You just click a button and with little effort you spread whatever you want the people to believe. But it's also because they are so convinced of the righteousness of their cause, electing Clinton, defeating Trump, that they have cast all limits and the constraints to the side, believing that any narrative or accusation or smear, no matter how false or conspiratorial, is justified in pursuit of it. But while Trump's candidacy poses grave dangers, so does think righteousness, particularly when it engulfs those with the great influence. The problem is that none of this is going to vanish after the election. The election year machine has a constructed based on elite unity in support of Clinton, casually dismissing inconvenient facts as fraudulent to make them disappear, branding critics as adversaries, as tools or agents of an enemy power bent on destroying America is a powerful one. As is seen here, it is capable of implanting any narrative, no matter how false, demonizing any critic, no matter how baseless, or riling up people to believe they're under attack. For a long time, liberals herald themselves as part of the reality-based community and derided conservatives as faith-based victims of epidemic closure. The dynamics seen here are anything but byproducts of reason. Yes, my friend, it's always the information, disinformation, saying they're right, you're wrong. Let's go after Putin. It's all Putin's fault. Come on. With all due respect to even to the Clinton campaign, look at the fruits of her labor. Even as a senator, she is not freedom friendly. Okay? Your garbage doesn't isn't honored in my realm. And even though I'm critical of Donald Trump too, but one thing you have to say is always observe responsibly. Yeah, I do recall too. Sputnik is a state-funded organization that was in site that's based out of Russia. Nothing new at all. So you have to always tell folks observe responsibly. That's why on my if I talk stuff like this, email me by Sputnik, send me something a little bit different. We have a cool discussion. That'd be great. But folks, always stay vigilant. Whoever gets in, be vigilant. Don't just let them speak. Take action. Don't just wait to vote. Pursue. Put their feet in the fire. All right. Well, I can say this. This came from Activist Post. Actually, it's StormCollinsGathering.com. The video presentation, and it's pretty cool. It says here, 2016 presidential selection shows is a great opportunity for awakening, and it says here, elections 2016 This has never been a better time for a rude awakening. Observing the presidential elections over the years has been a lot like watching a television series jump the shark. We've gotten to that point where to watch the same reason you can't help slowing down and staring as you pass on the wreck of the highway. It's a Jerry oh Springerification of politics, a morbid fascination, decline of civilization. So you know what? I'm gonna play you the video. I'm gonna post that on my Spreaker page as well, so it's all right. And it'll be brief, so check this out.
Observing the presidential elections over the years has been a lot like watching a television series, Jump the Shark. We've gotten to that point where you watch it for the same reason you can't help slowing down and staring as you pass a wreck on the highway. It's the Jerry Springerification of politics, a morbid fascination with the decline of Western civilization. I know. Some of you are on the train. Some of you are actually inspired by the smoke being blown up your collective backsides. I'm not here to burst your bubble. Not necessary. Reality will set in on its own time. No matter who gets inaugurated in January, the American public is going to come to their senses in a ditch with a hangover and realize that they have no idea where their pants are. That's an ugly picture. Sometimes you have to hit rock bottom to realize you've got a problem. There has never been a better time for a rude awakening. All around the world, we are witnessing the early stages of a massive social and economic upheaval. Large swaths of the population feel angry, disenfranchised, and disgusted with the trajectory we're on. This undercurrent carried Donald Trump and Bernie Sanders to the national stage. It brought Brexit to a referendum. And ready or not, there's more to come. I know. The other candidate is really, really bad. I agree. Both sides see their opposition's candidate as a fraudster, a liar, and a fool. And they're both right. Trouble is, both sides hate their opponent so much that they refuse to scrutinize their own candidate. Par for the course. Delusion is the lifeblood of politics. But with a lineup like this, one has to wonder if the powers that be are getting senile. Must be having a hard time recruiting competent, likable puppets. The circus tent is collapsing, and America is about to get a new ringmaster foisted upon them that is disliked and distrusted by the majority of the population. It's unprecedented. You could even call it historic. This election isn't going to be determined by who people are voting for, nearly so much as who they are voting against. They really screwed the pooch with Bernie Sanders, though, didn't they? It was all so well planned and choreographed. The graceful loser, an emphatic endorsement, great music and visuals, all ruined by the DNC email leaks. They got caught red-handed. In doing so, the establishment planted the seeds of rebellion in the hearts and minds of an entire generation. And that generation just happens to be the future. Therein lies a window of opportunity. Discontent is the mother of revolution. Disillusionment, the motor of real change. As America stumbles around in that ditch trying to figure out what went wrong, more and more people are going to realize that it's time to stop pissing their life away at the RNC and DNC liquor stores. The solution is not going to come from the same system that created the problem. It's not just a few bad apples. It's not just democracy that's broken. We're running on a faulty paradigm. We have a debt-based monetary system which requires infinite growth to stay afloat on a finite planet addicted to oil and war. Time to start working outside the box. Reforms aren't going to cut it. Divisive political wedge movements aren't going to help. A full socioeconomic reset is in order and in the works. It is going to be a bumpy ride, though, so I hope you have a sense of humor. We're probably gonna need it. If this message resonates with you, spread it. You have permission to download and transmit any and all of our content through any venue, commercial or non-commercial. If you want more, follow Stormclouds Gathering on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. For sources, transcripts, and email updates, visit our website at stormcloudsgathering.com.
Yeah, that's right, my friends. Never lose hope. A lot of great stuff is going to be happening. I do see it's going to be a rocky road. I agree, a rough ride. But there's awareness of consciousness. Awareness is accelerating. And like I said before, I've been chatting with folks after they're sharing information with me. I don't even meet them the first time. So when you hear folks complaining, oh, I try to do this and people don't listen, so you know what? You keep going. Don't hang out in the same facilities, like sitting in an outhouse that's been unsanitized. That's been unsanitized outhouse. It sits there and rots and rots and rots, and it's so potent, you're gonna get sick. It was so funny because so hilarious about the mainstream media. Like I said, it's like they all going Trump this, Trump that. It's like it's anti-Trump fetish. And they all talk about, oh, he's surrounded by Russians. Yeah, but is it okay if Hillary Clinton is surrounded by banksters? Could we say hypocrisy? Absolutely. So whatever you folks do, pursue your goals, share your visions, support spiritual prosperity. That will it'll be a lot easier on your consciousness. All right. And that is all for now, my friends. Thanks for listening. Plus, feel free to download and share this episode throughout your social media networks. That includes the rest of my archives on Spreaker. If you have any questions, comments, or recommendations, like sending me something that's interesting I haven't checked out. Whatever you do, please deliver your correspondence with decorum. You can hit me on Facebook, Twitter, Google+, Spreaker, iHeartRadio, Tumblr, YouTube, Freedoms Network, and Scene.life. Or you can email me at LokiLuck3, with LokiLuck all together with the number 3 at gmail.com. Yeah, I was just, it's going to be a little bit controversial, I would say, the song I'm be playing. Because he was a convicted serial killer or conspiracy to murder. It was Charles Manson. And it's intriguing about this, disturbing but intriguing, that there is even claims that he was involved in a mind control, CIA mind control advocate, and especially his followers with LSD. They call it the CIA. He was a CIA agent allegedly, according to some of the sources and even the books. People talk about Charles Manson. He was mind controlled. However, an interesting song on here called Eyes of the Dreamer. I remember purchasing a copy demo at a flea market in Stormville, New York. It was like, man, about 26 years ago. Man, time flies. Just out of curiosity, and interesting about him, he was a very, I'd say, artistic individual as a musician. So I was going to play this song. Just listen to the lyrics. It's going to be posted on my Spreaker page as well. It's not saying I'm praising Charles Manson on his actions, but I'm looking at his musicianship. So I look at all sides. So observe responsibly, my friends, okay? Once again, thank you for your time. Plus, always remember that demoniac resistance is healthy for the soul and can liberate humanity. Until next time, take care of yourselves. Keep on spreading the love, and may your guardian spirits be with you.
It's all in the eyes of a dreamer. It's all in the eyes of the man. All the things that we've done in life and all the things that we've planned. Can the world be as sad as it seems? Where are man's hopes? Where are man's dreams? All the eyes of a dreamer. In the eyes of the man. All the songs have been sung, and all the saints have been hung. The wars and cries have been wailed, and all the people have been jailed. The world is yours, my friend, it's yours to begin or to end. All the eyes of the dreamer, in the eyes of the man. Take nothing from nothing, brother, and it's all just the same. For the loser is the winner, and there ain't no blame. It's just the end of the game. The moment is ever constant in the mind. Everywhere I look, the blind leads the blind. Here's your chance to step out of time. There ain't no reason and there ain't no rhyme. For the trouble you bring is the trouble you bring. And a thing is a thing, just a thing is a thing. In the eyes of a dreamer, it's in the eyes of a man. Of the dreamer, all in the eyes of the man. All the things that you've done in life and all the things that you planned. Is the world as sad as it seems? Where are your hopes? Where are your dreams? In the eyes of the dreamer, all in the eyes of the man. And you are the man.